I have made videos before that have said what the limitations are, so now I thought I would do one that shows what it's really designed to do, what it was originally designed to do when they first came out. Now the images that I've got here, I've already put through and I've actually cut, so you'll see what the results are in a few minutes. But I wanted to show you some of the adjustments that you can make while you're actually doing this. So I'm going to have to put this down so you can see. So I'm going to stand up so I can see my screen now. If I go back a screen or two, this will give me the editing of the exercise. So you scan your images either in colour or you can choose it in black and white. Now I tried doing these images in black and white because some people say they always scan in black and white, they don't bother doing the colour version. This would not scan properly in black and white, it just didn't want to know, no matter what I did. And I did play around with the settings. So we go for the OK here, and it's recognising everything. We can play around afterwards with the manipulation. Okay. So we have three things that we can do here. Ignore object size is for things like this mark here. So if you've got some little bits that shouldn't be really there, you can think, oh well, that might be, I don't know, 1.5 cm by 3 mm or something. I'll ignore everything of that size. So you tap on that, put the measurements in, and then off you go. This one here is to adjust the smoothing. So you might want, if you've got something, I don't know, maybe a flower which has got lots of petals with pointy edges, or maybe something like an animal with a ruffled outline, furry outline or something like that. You might want to smooth it. And you can adjust it either to high or low or medium, whichever you want to do. Okay. And this one is the one that's going to make the most difference, and this is your colour allowance. So when you do a scan, it will see a certain number of colours. If you want it to have a wider colour range, then you go up. If you want it to see fewer colours, and then you go down. Now the reason I adjusted it, I think it was on 5 to start with, the reason why I adjusted it is because of this particular shape here. And if I show it to you actually under the camera, this shape here was not going to be cut out until I got that number up to 10. If I put it over 10, I was going to get more things being cut that I didn't actually want. I was going to end up with white borders and the like. So that is how you actually adjust it, and you can click OK, and then it will process it, and you can go for your cutting if you want to cut it. Off you go, you do that. Right, so this is what I have ended up with. Just grab all of this, peel away the excess. Now these blue tags here have got a little bit of white on the top, and this is where I had to add the extra colour to it, because I said, okay, I need 10 colours to be recognised to get this one cut out. That ended up recognising shadow where I wouldn't necessarily want it recognised. It has worked out pretty well. There's nothing wrong with that. But as I said, it does take a little bit of adjustment to get the results that you like. The other thing that I have found is that if lighting conditions are not optimal, sometimes that affects what the scanner can see. And unfortunately, the way my desk is set up, I have a window directly in front of me. And I tried doing this with a photographic glossy card, and it didn't like it at all. So this has worked out as well as I would expect it to work out. I don't think you could get it any better than this. If I was doing it as a print and cut with my Surecut slot, yes, I could probably get it a little bit better again. But for scanning and cutting, I don't think there is anything really wrong with that. The other thing that I would like to emphasise is that I have the DX machine. It has an auto blade, and I think the auto blade is the next best thing to slice bread. I love the auto blade. Now, I bought a new one, or I put a new one in the machine recently, and whereas I bought the machine and used the original auto blade in it and didn't ever have to adjust it, this one I had to take it right the way down to -8 when I first started cutting. Done a few cuts and now it's down to -5 and it's cutting perfectly, as you can see. But I was surprised, and the only reason I can think of for that difference is that the blade is perhaps slightly longer than the one that I had originally. But I couldn't compare the two because I'd thrown out the old blade, it had got chipped, and so I didn't have the original to compare it with. But that is the only thing that I can put it down to, because nothing else had changed. One day it was on 0 with the new blade, the next day it was on -8. Nothing else had changed, same card, everything. So you may or you may not have to adjust your blade pressure, your auto blade pressure, before you start doing your cuttings. Do a test cut, find out what it is, because you don't want to wreck your mat. Okay. So I got those cut out quite happily, and these are the ones that I cut from a photographic card. And the strange thing was that I was getting different gaps as I went further down the card. Like, these were cutting short on the top, and at the bottom they weren't. I was like, okay, this is just really, really weird. And things like this, where you've got the little flower on the side there, it didn't want to cut that. It was just not quite a clean cut, just a little bit off. And so the only difference at that time, I did one lot which came out reasonably well, which was plain card. Then I went to do the photographic card, and it just really didn't do the same quality of cut. It was just weird, you know. Same design, same print and everything, it just didn't want to know. The difficulty you're going to come across is if you have something which is a lot paler than everything else, or a colour that doesn't pick up quite as easily, in which case, to be perfectly honest, the easiest way of doing it is to take a pencil, draw around the offending piece, and then when it scans it, it'll pick up your pencil line, and then you just rub it out afterwards. Now, if you want to do a whole load of things of the same design, then obviously the easiest thing to do is to put it into your colour software to get a decent trace on it in the first place and save your file. And then at least you can scan your image in, you can place the file over the top of it, and you can get it to work that way. So my complaints with the machine are not really machine related, they are software related. Let me make that quite clear. I dislike the way the software works. I dislike the fact that I can't use Skull and cut directly from Skull with my machine. Right, having said that, I've got a couple of other things to tell you about. The first one that I want to do is say about accessories that I have for my machine that I think are invaluable. I had a second-hand machine and it came with this. This is one of the small pen holders. I don't even know if you can get these anymore. But if you have one of these and you happen to be able to get hold of some little nail art tools, I don't know where this one came from. Maybe it was purpose built for some other machine, I really don't know. But it happens to fit quite nicely in there. And all I did was put a little piece of craft foam on the top because it didn't have quite the right length in it to stay in there. Snap it shut, and this means that you get an embossing tool for your machine. You can use this if you send your file to draw rather than cut, and you can then tell your machine it's an embossing file. Whatever you like to do, you can. You can just set it to draw, or you can set it to emboss. Just activate the embossing function. It will still work. So you can use that if you don't have an embossing tool set. If you have this type of small gauge pen holder, you can also buy a nail art tool and you can put it in there. These are very, very cheap to buy. I can buy a packet of these for about €2.50 and there's about 5 in the packet. And they have different size ball endings. And again, you just tell the machine that your lines are set to draw, and then you can either draw or emboss them depending on what you want to do. One gizmo that I did get was this scan disc, or SanDisk I should say. It's a USB, but it's wireless. And this enables me to make my SVGs on my iPad in my choice of software and send it directly to this, and this stays plugged into my scan and cut. Now the exception to this is the print to cut files. You cannot make any kind of print to cut file and just avoid using Canvas. You have to put print and cut files through Canvas in order for the machine to recognise that they are print to cut files. So print to cut has to go through Canvas no matter what you do. Now if you stayed all the way to the end, I am going to give you a nice little tip. Everyone knows that your mats need cleaning quite regularly, but do you realise that you actually also need to clean the plastic covering? If you've cleaned your mat and it's all nice and wonderful and it's not got any fluff and bits on it, if you then put your dirty piece of plastic over the top, you're ruining all that good work that you've done in cleaning it. This is static and it will attract fluff, dust, hair and everything else it can possibly attract. And if you put this directly over your nice clean mat, you're not doing yourself any favours. So when you clean your mat, clean your piece of plastic as well, and your mat will stay that much cleaner for that much longer. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon. Take care now.